Welcome back to another segment of Behind the Scenes of the Waltons. I'm going to be taking up more of your questions today in another segment of Ask Judy. An interesting message here from Rojo, who said, I have a reference book entitled The Complete Directory to Network and Cable TV Shows, which is no longer published. The book gives a synopsis of all network and cable shows along with main cast credits up till around 2008 when it was last published. It also has the top 30 Nielsen programs for each season. I noted that The Waltons was in the top 30 shows each season except for seasons 7 and 8, but found it interesting that the show bounced back to number 30 in season 9. I'm curious to hear your take as to why CBS may have canceled the series, especially as it had bounced back in the ratings, which is no small feat for an aging series. First of all, that's interesting to hear. And I'm happy to hear that we were back at number 30 or in the top 30 by the end of season 9. It's interesting because at the end of season 8, we did a decade of the Waltons. And it sort of seemed almost like that was a wrap-up of the series with us interacting with our real-life counterparts. They were in Virginia. We were at the studio. We did those as split screens. Where we did our side of the conversation, they did their side of the conversation, and it got edited together. And of course, Earl Hamner narrated through a lot of that and really set up and talked about the show. So there was some, I think they, probably because the ratings had slipped, that during season 8, there may have been talk that it was going to be the last season, and perhaps they wanted to be prepared for that. So I think there was a little sense of, oh, that's great when we got the word that we were being picked up for season 9. I'm also aware that Lorimar, the company that we worked for, had a deal with CBS that the Waltons would not be put into reruns like syndication and run continuously until the series ended, and producers really make their money in syndication. So shows always wanted to get, typically they wanted 3 years before to enable a show to go into syndication. You almost never see a show in reruns that only did a season. Maybe that's changing now, but at that point in time, that was sort of the benchmark. So shows really aimed to try and get those 3 seasons in so that they could get into syndication, because then the producers no longer have that outlay of the initial costs of making an episode. So it's pretty much all profit to them at that point, whatever percentage of the profit goes to the producers. So I think perhaps Lorimar felt, and CBS, the show's kind of run its course. It's not doing as well in ratings, and let's get it into the money-making phase of the show. So I always kind of had that feeling about it. I have no idea how accurate that is. I have no idea how those decisions were made. We simply got the call, we're coming back, we're not coming back. And when I spoke with Scott Hamner, because he wrote the very last episode in season 9, I think it was the Revel or something like that, that he said he knew that was the last episode, but I didn't know that. I don't know if any of the cast knew that, but I think for whatever reason, if they did know it was going to be the end, they didn't share that with us. I got the news in between on our hiatus that, oh, by the way, you're canceled. And I don't even remember how I heard that. Probably through the grapevine, because they were not necessarily forthcoming in their information to us. I don't recall getting a personal call from somebody connected with the show. Oh, by the way, sorry to say the show's canceled. So wish I had more information on that, but those are my speculations about it. This from Laura Moore. I enjoyed your video. As always, you have a very good, clear speaking voice. Thank you. I wanted to comment on the glasses reflecting. I've heard that for cabinets or other furniture that would normally have glass, that it is left out so it won't reflect. Not sure about people who wear glasses. Yes, absolutely true, and I should have commented on that when I was talking about the reflections. I know one key example was in Godsey's store with the candy, where the candies were, that display case. that glass on the front was missing, so it was very easy for us to sneak our hands in there and sample those candies. Cammie has talked about that, and that set was always sort of there. They didn't clear out all of that stuff when we weren't using that set for Godsey's store, and it was on the same set, stage 26, where the house was. So we were on stage 26 a lot, and I think I and Cammie are probably not the only ones who would sneak into Godsey's store, that set, when it was just sitting there unused, and go grab a few candies out of there. And I'm sure they had to restock whenever we were actually going to be filming, because crew, cast, anybody could have gone in there and had a few candies. But not to say that we couldn't get the candies from around back, but it was so easy to just reach in the front. So thank you for that fun reminder. Then this sort of question comment from Warren Kroom, who said, can you talk about how Eric and Jon got to witness how popular the show was from a different setting when visiting the Hamner house and seeing the impact of a show while it being on the air? Because Earl's mother was an amazing woman and she helped them get a mental note on what the show means. I haven't yet had a chance to talk with Eric or Jon about that, but I think we all experienced that phenomenon when we were out and about doing Walton appearances, or just in life when we interacted with people who were fans of the show and got to get a sense of people and the popularity of the show. And if I was doing some sort of an appearance and there were lots of people there and they were taking pictures and getting autographs and stuff like that, we started to get that real feel of how popular the show was. And Earl's mother, she came to the set at times, as did other members of his family. So through them, we did get to learn about how popular the show was in their area. And I know people would come by the house, and Jon and Eric talked about this, that, someone would just show up at the house because they knew it was where Earl grew up, and they'd knock on the door, or if she was sitting out on the porch, and she always was so gracious and served them tea or lemonade or something like that, and talked with them and answered their questions. So all of that, I think, for all of us cast members, contributed to our understanding and recognition of the growing popularity of the show. Because initially we had no idea. You film something, episodes don't air for several months afterwards. There was no live audience. So until we got out to interact with people who are watching the show, we had no idea who was watching it, what they thought of it, how was the show being received. The ratings would tell us that it had a viewership, thank goodness, but it was really starting to get out, and to those appearances where people were like, oh my goodness, the Waltons, yay, that we started to recognize, oh wow, okay, this is different. I remember taking a boat to Catalina Island. It's a fairly short boat ride, and go over to Catalina Island, and I was going over there on this boat, and I got kind of mobbed by people on the boat. Small boat, but all of a sudden there I was signing autographs on the boat, and those types of experiences were new to me for quite a while, and then they got to be sort of, oh wow, this happens, and but it was always nice, and I never really got mobbed or anything, so it was manageable. So, but it was fun to suddenly go, wow, hey, people recognize us and like the show. So always appreciate it. Thank you for joining me for this segment of Ask Judy. If you enjoy these segments, please do hit like and subscribe. And I'll see you next time for more behind the scenes of the Waltons, more Ask Judy, and hopefully more special guests. Thanks for watching.